Toyota has always seemed to have a vehicle for everyone in the lineup. Whether you're looking for an affordable sedan or hatchback, maybe you want a full-sized SUV, a pickup truck, compact crossover, hybrid, or EV, and anything else in between. But one vehicle that was missing was a formidable subcompact crossover. Now, in the past, Toyota did have the CHR, but it was too much of a niche product. It had no chance of going head-to-head with a Subaru Crosstrek, or even today now with a Mazda CX-30, or maybe even a Hyundai Kona. But here we are with the Toyota Corolla Cross. Now, with the Corolla nameplate, you're thinking longevity and reliability, and that's exactly what buyers are so far experiencing with this model. Now, Toyota didn't necessarily need to introduce a new subcompact crossover because they've done very well with the Corolla sedan and hatchback, and also they're doing phenomenal with the best-selling crossover with the RAV4. But if you're somebody that falls in between, you don't want a small sedan, but you also want a vehicle that is practical, affordable, and fuel efficient, well, that's where the Corolla Cross slots into place very nicely for you. Today, we're going to take an in-depth look at the Corolla Cross. We're going to take a look at the exterior, the interior, take it out for a test drive, and see why, if you're looking at buying a subcompact crossover under $30,000, then maybe considering the 2024 Corolla Cross might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to AutoFair Toyota in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Toyota inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Car shoppers have made it clear that they demand large vehicles, which explains why compact sedans and hatchbacks have been phased out the last few years in favor for crossovers. The subcompact market has experienced exponential growth over the last decade, as the versatility, practicality, and overall value is a proposition that's difficult to pass up. While Americans continue to transition to crossovers, there's one remaining problem, and that's the size of subcompacts, which in essence are lifted hatchbacks. The Toyota Corolla Cross is here to change all of that, with an offering that very few can replicate in their lineups. And for those who've been waiting for a baby RAV4 or a CR-V, you now have the perfect candidate. Starting off with pricing, the model we have today is the XLE, coming in with a base cost of just over $28,000. While the top of the range Corolla Cross can surpass the $30,000 price bracket, it's all going to boil down to the amenities and features this trim provides that will captivate you. Even before checking out the interior, what will draw your attention first is the size of this subcompact, as its length of 176 inches and height of 65 inches is where this model has a competitive advantage. Seen as a drawback for most commuter vehicles, its boxier shape is what will ultimately determine its family friendliness, as you may be surprised by its practicality when we check out the interior. Maybe catching you off guard, the Corolla Cross has a ground clearance of 8.1 inches, which will be more than enough to tackle winter road conditions. Profound for a subcompact crossover, Toyota kept it simple with the overall design, but they were conscientious enough to not make it appear as a lifted Corolla hatchback or sedan, as it has its own unique appearance. Seen as a baby RAV4, the cladding around the wheel arches and front bumper does give this crossover a rugged appeal, despite the unlikelihood of traversing the off-road. But with the LED headlights, fog lights, and contrasting accents that outline the grille, the Corolla Cross does make a great first impression as being an affordable SUV on a budget. Moving over to the side profile, the XLE will be sitting on 18-inch alloy wheels, helping to provide a classier look to the Corolla Cross. Because this is a subcompact crossover, the suspension and ride quality will be less refined than the RAV4. And even before encountering imperfections in the road, you will notice the additional road noise. For city and suburban driving, the Corolla Cross does manage to provide a comfortable driving experience, but it's far from being luxurious. You'll have body color folding side mirrors, with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then making our way around to the back, this is where there's some resemblance to the sedan it shares platforms with, especially with the taillight design. Once again, its boxier shape does give the Cross a traditional crossover and SUV appearance, which this alone may attract buyers who aren't fans of the hatchback designs from competitors. Much like up front, cladding will dominate the rear bumper, but the color matching rear diffuser is a nice touch for a vehicle priced around $30,000. Under the hood, all gas-powered models will be equipped with a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, producing 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque, and like many crossovers in this market, is paired with a CVT. Much like rivals, the Corolla Cross isn't a high-powered or quick vehicle, and if that's what you're looking for in a crossover the size of the Corolla Cross, definitely take a look at the hybrid. What makes this subcompact distinct from its competitors is its on-road demeanor, as Toyota modeled the Corolla Cross after the RAV4, but in a smaller package, appealing to buyers who are prioritizing practicality above everything else. While not a rugged or off-road vehicle by any means, you can opt for all-wheel drive, which our model does have, but front-wheel drive does come standard if you don't encounter winter road conditions throughout the year. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 29 miles per gallon in the city and 31 miles per gallon on the highway, which is pretty respectable for a non-hybrid powertrain. Stepping inside, going all out for the top trim XLE will pay immediate dividends, as you're greeted by heated soft-text leatherette seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having power adjustability. For a model priced around $30,000, the amount of interior features you're receiving may sway you from choosing a less equipped RAV4, as the interior styling, refinement, and layout may impress shoppers looking to either downsize from a larger crossover or make the leap to a more family-friendly alternative. In front of you will be a full digital gauge cluster, where you can scroll through a variety of information. Despite Toyota keeping things simple and not integrating in-depth instrument displays or head units, the cabin does feel modernized and up-to-date. Moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have an 8-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, and optional, you can upgrade to the 9-speaker JBL Premium audio system to amplify the sound of your favorite music. As with most Toyota products, you can subscribe for onboard navigation. However, what really impressed me was the fact that even for a subcompact crossover, the Corolla Cross receives the same technology found in the rest of the lineup, which should make an impact on those cross-shopping this with the RAV4. Even better, there will be physical buttons and dials for the dual-zone climate control, AC, front and rear defrosters, and the 2-level heated seats, providing the right balance between offering an analog interior and modern tech. You'll have a rear backup camera with trajectory to help you park the Corolla Cross. Then as we make our way towards the center console, you'll have a wireless phone charging pad and a cubby to safely secure your phone. Next to the gear shifter, you'll find the electric parking brake and vehicle hold buttons. And for the center storage compartment, there'll be enough room for smaller items. Then to round out the front seating area, optional for the XLE is a power moonroof, which will let in a lot of natural light to the interior.
Now moving on to the second row, taking a look at the interior dimensions for passengers in the back, Toyota claims you're going to receive right around 35 inches of legroom, and I am not entirely convinced in a good way. That's the second time today, in fact. I think Toyota is downplaying the amount of interior space you actually have here, because I have been in vehicles with around 36, 37 inches of legroom, and I think the Corolla Cross is on pace with those crossovers in this market. Now, of course, this is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", so I'm not the tallest person out there, but I have a good amount of legroom. So if you are a smaller family, I think everyone should be pretty comfortable. Best of all, what the Corolla Cross is offering, especially for families on a budget, is a vehicle that will be able to accommodate your kids in the second row, and you're not going to feel claustrophobic or feel as though you're sitting on top of each other. Whereas with the Mazda CX-30, and I'm just going to single out that crossover, it's very small in the back, and you're going to notice that with the Hyundai Kona, and maybe with the Subaru Crosstrek. But with the Corolla Cross, because you have more of a higher roof line, it does feel a bit more spacious back here. Now, if you are around the height of 6 feet tall, you might be hitting your head on the headliner. But for average sized adults, they can sit back here relatively comfortably. If you are using a ride sharing app, I think you can definitely have people in the back. They won't feel squished or claustrophobic. And that's really important for a vehicle in this price range and market. Now, moving on to the center seat, you are going to have some okay placements for your feet. The center hump is pretty aggressive, which will take away from legroom and most certainly shoulder room. Now, the Corolla Cross is not a RAV4, it's not a large vehicle, so I don't think you'll be squeezing in a third person. If you do have a larger family, go with the RAV4. If you only have 2 kids in your family, I think the Corolla Cross is going to give you enough space for everybody. And then on the passenger side, I adjust this seat all the way back. It's also someone on a recline, and now I'm squished. But it's going to be very unlikely that someone this tall is going to be sitting in front of you. And if they are that tall, you're probably buying a bigger vehicle. You're not buying a Corolla Cross. So for a subcompact crossover, this feels very much on par with its closest rivals. But also, I think initially, but also when you're checking out this vehicle for the first time, your impressions are going to be, wow, this actually feels like a more traditional crossover than the rivals I've been considering. So I think from that perspective, you're definitely going to be impressed with the interior space. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with 2 USB-C inputs. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Then making our way around to the back with the XLE, you are going to receive a power liftgate, which for a lot of subcompact crossovers in this market, you're not going to get, mostly because they're lifted hatchbacks. But inside, behind the second row seat, you're looking at right around 25 cubic feet of room. This would outclass a lot of rivals in this market, including the Subaru Crosstrek, Mazda CX-30, and Hyundai Kona. There's not a lot of vehicles from rival manufacturers that have a subcompact that is bordering on being a compact crossover in regards to practicality. If you're somebody that doesn't need a RAV4, but you also want something a bit more spacious than the Corolla hatchback, this is where the Corolla Cross is a great alternative, especially if you're looking for, say, an LE, where you want to spend just over $20,000. But on top of that, you also have deep side pockets where you can easily fit smaller items, such as a couple water bottles, car detailing equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Then with the second row seats full, you're looking at right around 66 cubic feet of room. Once again, mirroring what we see in the compact segment compared to what we see in the subcompact. So if you're somebody that wants a affordable vehicle that is family friendly, that's smaller than a RAV4, and you also want a vehicle that doesn't feel like a lifted hatchback or a lifted sedan, that's where you're going to like the Corolla Cross. And if the practicality wasn't enough to really get you interested in this vehicle, beneath the floor mat, you are going to receive a spare tire. So if you encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Also back here, you do have a rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And finally, once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. So we're now behind the wheel of the 2024 Toyota Corolla Cross. Let's take this subcompact crossover out for a quick test drive to see how it performs, how it handles, how it drives, how it might compare to other subcompact crossovers out there. And if you are somebody looking for an affordable option on the market today at around $30,000, you also like what the Toyota Corolla is giving you, but you want better practicality even compared to the hatchback, you might like what the Cross is giving you. Right off the bat, there's a few things that have really stood out to me hopping into the Corolla Cross for the first time. One is seat positioning. I don't feel like I'm sitting in a subcompact crossover, nor do I feel like I'm sitting in a lifted hatchback. The Honda CR-V in front of me, now it is an older generation, I feel like I'm at eye level with that vehicle, which for a lot of subcompacts, you really can't say the same. I'm thinking the Subaru Crosstrek, Hyundai Kona, sometimes even the Honda HR-V doesn't really feel like a big vehicle on the road. Now, this also doesn't feel like a Corolla either. Not only when it comes to the amount of shoulder you have here, of course the practicality, but just the way in which it drives and its demeanor on the roadways. Of course, it has the same powertrain, but there's a lot different here for this vehicle despite sharing platforms. One thing I really like about this vehicle is that, one, it's going to be a more practical option than the Corolla, which honestly, I'm surprised that the Corolla Cross hasn't really eaten into the Corolla sales right now. I think a lot of buyers still love what that small sedan is giving you. But also, this isn't eating away at the RAV4 sales either. Now, if you are somebody that's looking for a vehicle that's also fuel efficient of this size, you like what the Corolla Cross is giving you, but you just want better performance and better fuel efficiency, go with the hybrid. But with the XLE that we have today, I love the features that come equipped on this model, such as the power liftgate, but also you have heated front seats, dual zone climate control. It feels pretty nice in here, and Toyota never really cuts corners with their vehicles, and I'm glad to see they did the same with the Corolla Cross. This does not feel like a cheap subcompact crossover. Now, maybe the LE might be a different story since we're in the top trim XLE for the gas-powered model, but honestly, for a sub $30,000 subcompact crossover, I'm not complaining at all. Now we're going to be on a bit of a back road here. We'll get to see what the handling and cornering is like. I'm not expecting anything dynamic, anything too sporty. Honestly, the reason why you're buying a Corolla Cross is the intangibles. You're buying it for the fundamentals. Now, obviously, you do not have a lower center of gravity. You don't have a sports tune suspension on this model, so you don't feel very connected to the road at all when you are on back roads. This is not going to be an agile or performance-driven crossover when you are on some back roads. But as a daily driver, as a family vehicle, more importantly, this is an efficient and also an affordable family vehicle for somebody on a budget. This, to me, really gives you the basics and just a bit more. I like the fact you do get a nice infotainment system that isn't too in-depth, that isn't going to really be overbearing, especially if you're somebody who doesn't really want to have a lot of technology in your vehicle. You also have a nice digital gauge cluster, which is great to see for a vehicle in this market. But I think ultimately what's going to draw your attention is what drew my attention when I got behind the wheel, which is its size. It doesn't have this small car feeling. Even up front, with the amount of shoulder room, then looking out back, the amount of space back there, this is really great for young families. It's more spacious, more practical than a Mazda CX-30. It's bigger than a Subaru Crosstrek. It's bigger than the Hyundai Kona. And not a lot of manufacturers can get away with a vehicle like this just because their compact crossovers aren't that large, such as the Mazda CX-5, such as the Subaru Forester. So brands have to be a bit careful when they're making a subcompact that could eat away at those sales for the larger vehicles. And in regards to that size, this kind of feels like a vehicle that's slotting into place where an older RAV4 would have been. As we all know, the new RAV4 is decently sized. Now, getting on the highway here, obviously, not spry, not quick, but I got up to highway speeds in a decent manner. Now, a few things I do want to point out here is that you have the exact same engine that is in the Corolla, so a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 169 horsepower, 151 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, not a barnstormer, nothing that's going to really excite you in any way. It's not a sporty vehicle. It's not going to really leave people in the dust. But at least you can safely merge onto highways and you can pass slower drivers. The one takeaway, though, compared to the RAV4 is that you do have a lot more road noise entering the cabin, which is to be expected mostly because this is a boxy vehicle, but also it's not going to have the same interior refinement and quality that you're going to find in the more expensive RAV4. Now, we can pass semis and slower cars with ease. Obviously, you will be in the gas pedal a bit more. You're going to be on throttle a lot with this vehicle, but for suburban and urban driving, this is really a good pairing for somebody who rarely goes on the highway. If you're somebody that is ready to upgrade from your Corolla or Corolla hatchback, you love the platform, you love having a smaller vehicle, and you don't necessarily need a RAV4 or its powertrain and having that better performance, you're gonna like the Corolla Cross, mostly because for under $30,000, and this is one thing that you have to keep in mind here, is that where the XLE slots into place is where a base RAV4 is going to be priced. So if you're looking for the creature comforts, if you're looking for those features such as dual zone climate control, heated front seats, softer upholstery that isn't cloth, then that's where the Corolla Cross is going to make a lot more sense to you. What you're also going to really enjoy about this vehicle is that it's going to be the reliability. You know that you're going to be able to do 200,000 miles with ownership of this vehicle, and it will easily be able to handle that. And the fact that they're using the same powertrain that's in the Corolla pretty much tells you what to expect with this model. And what Toyota is doing in the subcompact crossover market, especially compared to the CHR. Remember the CHR? That was a wild vehicle that was going head-to-head with the HRV that really fell short in a lot of ways. I think Toyota learned their lessons from that vehicle because the CHR was a flop. It was trying to capture a younger consumer demographic. But what manufacturers are starting to understand now is that subcompact crossovers, such as the Subaru Crosstrek, the Mazda CX-30, and Hyundai Kona, is actually drawing a middle-aged buyer. It's not drawing in younger people. And when you look at the Corolla Cross, from its design, its interior, this is specifically designed and engineered for somebody who is in their late 30s and early 40s, someone who has a family, who has children, that needs the practicality, that can't spend over $35,000. And that, I think, is where Toyota is doing quite well with this model. And when you compile all of that into a list, it makes the Corolla Cross seem very appealing, especially at its price point. So to wrap up my time with the 2024 Corolla Cross, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this subcompact crossover? Basically, in essence, it's a baby RAV4. It feels like a RAV4 for the interior. It has similar characteristics in regards to interior space and overall practicality. But the only thing you're missing, though, is the performance and also, of course, some of the creature comforts that you're going to find in the more expensive RAV4. But for a subcompact crossover under $30,000, you're getting the bare necessities. You're getting what you desperately need in this market, such as dual zone climate control, heated seats, a decent infotainment system, and dashboard layout. But more importantly, though, is that this vehicle is versatile, more so than what we see from other subcompact crossovers. Now, the term crossover is used very lightly, where a lot of the vehicles in this segment are basically lifted hatchbacks. The Corolla Cross doesn't feel like a hatchback, and that's what makes it unique. I think it's also why a lot of buyers who are looking for a more spacious alternative than a Corolla sedan, but also vehicles not the size of the RAV4, are going to fall in love with this vehicle at the end of the day. What I also like too is that you have the ability to go with the hybrid trim. Now, you will be spending over $30,000, but I do think it's worth it, especially for a vehicle in this market if you want to maximize that fuel range and extend your dollar just a bit more at the pump. But walking away from the Corolla Cross, it is a decent vehicle in this segment. It's exactly what buyers are looking for. While it isn't going to be the crossover, it's going to draw your attention. It's not going to make you turn your head when it passes you by on the roadway. It is going to give you the intangibles and the fundamentals that a lot of buyers who traditionally purchase a Toyota are looking for, such as that reliability, the longevity, the fuel efficiency, and the practicality. And those 4 points right there can easily be checked off with this vehicle. And that's why ultimately what this subcompact crossover is giving you not only far exceeds what we had with the CHR, but in a market where buyers are looking for those intangibles, they're not necessarily looking for a luxury experience. That's where I think the Toyota Corolla Cross not only slots into this lineup very nicely, but also might be a great choice for you at the end of the day. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.